Hello, friends, and welcome back to Bay Area Housewife of True Crime, where I like to tell the stories of the real cucuys and lloronas of the world. We are at part 2 of the Christopher Bispham case. As a reminder, topics may be triggering. Viewer and listener discretion is very strongly advised. The people mentioned are innocent until proven guilty in court. For years, the academy, the conference, and the church were aware of Christopher Bispham's sexual proclivity to young boys, yet they still allowed him to teach at their schools and be involved with the church congregation and all of its events. The Central California Conference of SDAs released a statement basically just saying that the school was aware of the matter and were cooperating with police, and that the victims had been offered counseling. One of the mother of the boys rightfully sued the Central California Conference of SDAs for neglectful hiring, retaining, and supervising Mr. Bispham while he taught at their academy. The plaintiff also alleged that the school even notified Mr. Bispham and tipped him off about his upcoming arrest. That's when the Fresno Police Department worked with the U.S. Marshal Service to extradite this piece of shit from Florida to California. The civil lawsuit also filed against this monster said that the academy was neglectful, and now these victims have to endure a lifetime of emotional distress due to the sexual battery at the hands of this monster. A Fresno County judge ruled that there was enough evidence for this real-life cucuy to face trial on the 18 counts of sexual assault and sexual crimes against at least 4 minors. Mr. Bispham pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. He refused a plea deal and faced 266 years in prison. Prosecutors offered him a deal where he would plead guilty to lesser charges in exchange for 30 years in prison, but he declined that offer. At trial, law enforcement officers described how one of the victims explained how his teacher would take him to the closet and take off his clothes. Other law enforcement officers testified how at least 4 male students and victims of this real-life cucuy came forward with similar stories about how the teacher would fondle them while playing football or wrestling. It was a game to him. The 3 mothers of the victims have released the following statement. One of them says, and I quote, "We were all manipulated, groomed, and taken advantage of, all for the purpose of selfish and sick sexual behavior." Another said, and I quote, "He used his authority to cause the worst kind of pain a person could ever endure." A third said, "His training to recognize signs of abuse allowed him more tools as he hid behind a mask." The 4 victims were brave enough to face their abuser in court and describe in great detail of the horror they had undergone. Mr. Bispham, however, did not have the balls, who should be castrated, to even look at his victims. What a coward. Mr. Bispham was described as manipulative, clever, strategic, and acted in a manner which he did not give off any red flags. Quite the opposite, he was considered one of the most highly favored teachers at Fresno Adventist Academy. One of the victims testified that they had thoughts of self-harm, and usually after he was finished, he had the habit of giving the young boys candy. Amid the 5 years of extensive court hearings and trial, the victims and their families have expressed that they felt that this perp was not remorseful. One of them made the following statement, and I quote, "In all of the times I have come to court, there has never been any indication of sorrow or regret, but rather confidence, smirks, and ease," unquote. Christopher Bispham sexually abused at least 4 boys while he was a teacher at Fresno Adventist Academy. In April of 2022, 33-year-old Christopher Bispham was convicted of oral copulation with a minor, sexual penetration of a minor with a foreign object, and 3 counts of continuous sexual abuse of children. He was sentenced to 29 years and 4 months in prison. He also has to register as a sex offender as long as he shall live. He is in prison for the crimes that he did, and that's where he belongs. And if it were up to me, like I said, he should be castrated and never ever be allowed to be around anybody. We've reached the end of today's episode at Bay Area Housewife of True Crime. Thank you so much for coming down the rabbit hole where I currently live. Stay tuned for the next episode on the next case. Make sure to follow me on socials. My personal IG is bayarea.housewife. The podcast's IG is at Bay Area HW of True Crime. But you can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube at Bay Area Housewife of True Crime. If you like my content, do me a solid and rate my show wherever you listen. As always, I accept and respect your opinions. I welcome all comments, questions, case suggestions, etc. Call me, beat me at yayareahousewife@gmail.com. I'll see you chismosas y chismosos in the next. Adios.